Mananos Jesus, and good morning to everyone. Welcome to the 38th Guam Legislature, the People's House, and the Guam Congress Building. We appreciate you being here this morning as we continue to hold public hearings on the fiscal 2027 budget. Today we will be entertaining the Department of Education. This morning's hearing will be conducted by Committee on Finance and Government Operations and is called to order at 0907. We apologize, we had a couple technical difficulties, but we're on now. And this is going to be done, of course, this morning, May 6, 2026. First notice of this public hearing was disseminated to all senators and media outlets on April 29, 2026, with its second notice disseminated on May 4, 2026. These hearing notices were also made available on the Guam Legislature's website, our legislative calendar, and the Governor of Guam's public notice portal. The committee will hear testimony on the following on the agenda. Bill number 266-38, Committee on Rules, by request of Magaʹhågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, an act appropriating for the operations of the executive branch of the Government of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30, 2027, making other appropriations, and establishing miscellaneous administrative provisions. The focus of this session, and once again, will be the fiscal budget request for the Guam Department of Education. At this time, I would like to welcome my colleagues that have joined us this morning. The Chairman on Education, Senator Vince Borja. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also Senators Sean Gumatauta, Senator Sabrina Salas Mantanani, Senator Chris Barnett, and Senator Tello Taitigui. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us this morning. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone in attendance of Legislature Guam's general rules of conduct. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chairperson before speaking, and shall state their full name for record-keeping purposes. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance of the bill that is on the agenda. Personal inferences to the character or motive of any senator or individual testifying is not permitted. The chairperson of the committee may order the removal from this hearing of any member of Legislature Guåhan or the public audience who fails to observe proper decorum pursuant to the 38th Guam Legislative Standing Rules. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in immediate removal from this public hearing room. With that, we'll now proceed to hear testimony on Bill 266-38 and Department of Education's fiscal year 27 request. Madam Speaker, and now Acting Superintendent, of course, of the Department of Education, welcome, as well as others that have joined you. If you can go ahead and introduce those who have joined you and proceed with your presentation of your fiscal year 27 request.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Buenas and half a day. Yes, I'd like to introduce Dr. Okada, who is the Vice Chair of the Guam Education Board. Okay. And also with me is our DFAS, Mr. Franklin Leon Guerrero. But if I may, I would defer to our chairwoman first, our vice chairwoman, to speak.
Thank you very much. Ms. Okada, you're recognized at this time. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit absent-minded this morning. Before we begin, we'll have you sworn in. Please rise to be sworn in by Sergeant at Arms. He's keeping track of me.
Under benefit for you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, under the roll, you may proceed.
Thank you. Now you may proceed, Ms. Mary Okada.
Half a day and good morning to everyone. Senator Chris Dreñas, the chair of the Budget Committee, our Education Committee chairperson, Senator Vince Borja, Senator Gumatauta, Senator Sabrina Salas Mantanani, good morning. Senator Barnett, thank you for being here. Senator Tello Taitigui, thank you also for being here. My name is Mary Okada, the Vice Chair of the Guam Education Board, and this morning I am here to not necessarily present specific testimony, but to support the superintendent in her request. And just as general information, the the Guam Education Board adopted the fiscal year 2027 budget for the Guam Department of Education in the amount of $307,027,565. This was vetted through the Budget and Finance Committee, which is headed by myself and members of the Education Board as well. And so through that participation that the board had, we identified that the $307 million is what was necessary for the operational component of the Guam Department of Education. Taking into consideration that we also have other capital improvement projects and other prior year obligations that now have surfaced that need to be paid as well, the board supports this budget as requested, and look forward to any questions that you may have regarding the submission of the budget from the superintendent and her deputies, and on behalf of her department, and we'll answer any questions as necessary at a later time. Thank you very much.
You may proceed, Madam Speaker, Superintendent of Education.
Senator, may I also introduce Dr. Judith Guthers, who is the chairwoman of the Board of Education, and I would defer to her as well to speak before I do.
Welcome, Senator. Have you been sworn in already? Good morning. Senator, I understand you've been sworn in, so Senator Guthers, you may proceed with your opening comments.
Thank you very much. Good morning, honorable senators. It's good to be with you this morning. I look forward to a positive interaction and helping to pursue improvements and solutions that will be good for our children, our students, our school system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. You may now proceed, Superintendent Wampat.
Buenas and half a day to Senator Dueñas, the Ways and Means Chair, Senator Guåhan, our Education Oversight Chair, Senator Salas, Senator Barnett, and Senator Taitagui. Good morning. This report, or my report this morning, is to respectfully submit to you to provide an overview and a justification of the Guam Department of Education's proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 budget. Our presentation outlines the department's current operational scope, mandated obligations, funding priorities, and fiscal challenges impacting the delivery of educational services across the island. GDOE currently operates with 39 schools, serving a student population of 23,121. The department employs a total of 3,245. These personnel are essential to maintaining instructional delivery, student support services, and operational continuity across all campuses. Central to the budget framework are what we consider non-negotiable requirements outlined under the 14 Points Law, which mandates operational standards for public education. These includes the provision of certified teachers, counselors, nurses, allied health professionals, water, proper sanitation, instructional materials, and compliance with the requirement of the 100 instructional days, including transportation services. These statutory obligations form the foundations upon which all budgetary decisions are made. For fiscal year 26-27, GDOE is requesting a total budget of $307 million, an increase from fiscal year 25-26 appropriation budget of $265.8 million. The proposed allocation prioritizes personnel costs, which represent the largest expenditure at approximately $266,157.57 million. That's about 86.5% of our budget, reflecting the department's commitment to meeting staffing requirements aligned with the 14 Points Law and the collective bargaining agreement. Utilities funding is proposed at $18.1 million, addressing the critical need for consistent electricity, air conditioning, and water supply across all schools. Contractual services are projected at $18.33 million, supporting essential operations such as custodial services, grounds maintenance, food services, network system, maintenance for HVAC and elevators, sanitation permits, solid waste disposal, and compliance-related services. Supplies, equipment, and textbooks are also funded to ensure that classrooms are adequately resourced, though some reductions are reflected due to fiscal restraints. In addition to the general fund, GDOE continues to utilize special funds, including the Healthy Futures Fund, Passport Fund, and limited gaming revenues, which collectively support student health, library resources, and athletic programs. However, these funds are dependent on the revenue collections and are not guaranteed. Significantly, the department faces unfunded costs totaling $23.5 million, which are not included in the adopted budget. These include $12 million for ADA compliance, $10 million for deferred maintenance and capital improvements, and $1.5 million for security of our schools. Vandalism has cost so much in repair and replacements of instructional materials. One thing that we're actually considering to secure our schools are solar lighting and CCTV systems. These unmet needs present ongoing risk to safety, accessibility, and infrastructure integrity. In conclusion, the GDOE budget reflects a continued effort to align financial resources with statutory mandates and operational priorities, while addressing long-standing infrastructure and service delivery challenges. The department remains committed to ensuring that all students receive a safe, equitable, and a high-quality education. However, sustained investment and strategic fiscal report are necessary to fully meet legal requirements and improve overall system performance. Senators.
Madam Superintendent, Madam Speaker. First of all, I want to thank the Oversight Chair for the number of hearings that we've had with you, to include pending legislation to exhaust a lot of your capital improvements with authorization for your ability to use funds beyond what was prescribed in the fiscal year 2026 budget. And that will be heard on the floor in the May session. And so we look forward to that being able to really make a big dent in a lot of the CIPs that you have been discussing and moving forward as well. With that, the reason why I have been delighted with your participation, particularly in a lot of the improvements on the fiscal side, mainly due to your team led by Mr. Leon Guerrero, is because we're here today for the budget. And I've cautioned my colleagues that they really should use their time wisely. It's up to them how they use their time. But what we're focusing on is the budget. And we want to thank you for coming to the pre-budget meetings as well in order to be able to vet some of these issues. We will ask some of those questions pertaining to that, as we had a very frank discussion, which we'll have today here as well. Frank, no spin on your name. But we thought it was very fruitful and something that prepares us. I also want to mention that every senator receives the full budget many weeks and months before we come here. It's a binder about this thick, a couple hundred pages, and so there's a lot of time to be able to work on questions that you may have for the way the governor has presented the presentation of the budget request. And so this should be the refined time where you get to the details of what's here, having had the opportunity to review the budget requests for months now, at least on a global scale, as presented by the governor. We also at Office of Finance and Budget are very open. You can inquire anytime, whether you're a senator or anyone really, of what you want to ask in terms of how we're proceeding with this process going forward. The budget digests are always available that you can take a look at and see. And I just have one question before I go to the chairman, because I want this on the record before the rest of the senators start asking their questions, and I'll go to the chairman first as well. And that is in the footnotes, it indicates GDOE did not provide breakdown by program and or appropriation amount in the budget digest. Is there a reason for that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
So in the footnote of the budget digest as prepared by Office of Finance and Budget, there is a footnote that says GDOE did not provide breakdown by program and or appropriation amount in the budget digest. Is there a reason for that?
There's not a reason for that. My understanding is we complied with the requirements, the formatting requirements that was asked for. If it's not there, we'll get it there, because there's no reason we wouldn't have conformed.
Okay, so what we would do, just so that we have that on the record, go ahead, Madam Superintendent.
I'm just trying to, of course, my understanding is that the format is a lot different from what I'm accustomed to and what you're accustomed to as well, because we brought that up. But we do have, with us, like under each object category, how we came up with that dollar amount. Would that be helpful? Because then I have those. I don't have descriptions about programs itself, but specific requests under each object category, we do have that.
Okay, yeah, it will be, because
So
it will
would you
help.
like to
Yeah,
have
it will help in the formulation, and we'll communicate with you on that, and here's
Okay.
why. As you know, this is one of the things we came up with, and I'll ask during my questions a little bit deeper dive on this. We had a real back and forth on your FTE calls as well as your traditional FTE representations, and particularly because the real dearth we seem to consistently find in budget requests versus where we finally land is the 14 points as well as contractual agreements with the board. However, we continuously note that the request is far from the ability to fill those budgeted vacancies. And so a lot of times we get accused of not funding to a certain level, yet we find that there are so many budgeted vacancies that are, and that'll come up again, that are unable to be filled, thereby saying you're going to allocate tens of millions of dollars towards sometimes what, at least from traditional, and we'll bring up that information too, of traditional fiscal years, not being able to fill those positions, which really means you're locking up appropriations in that amount of money, even for your own operation, other than the operations of the government of Guam. So that's why we want to make sure that when we're drilling down on this, we need to communicate as well with the union. We need to communicate with your collective bargaining. We need to communicate with the issue of the points, because I know it's been very contentious, Madam Speaker, when you brought this up before in terms of what the points mean. But when you say sometimes adjustments on the points, you're not saying get away from the quality of education that's being delivered. What you're saying is we haven't been able to find or validate the positions required to do what we need going forward. And it's not for lack of an attempt, it's for lack of the ability to fill those positions, yet you put these positions in the budget, and like I said, we'll get to that during a further line of questioning. But that's where we want to also make sure that we're really having a real discussion on what are we doing versus what do we have to do what we need to do, and that way it's clearer when we get on the floor and back and forth. I want to say also, I appreciate the administration this year. We made it very clear in the beginning, we were not going to go through that craziness on the floor of the legislature again, asking where's the reserve fund that included Department of Education, meaning that the governor's request can be, all over the place in terms of who did what, where, and why, and what was requested. That's in this budget digest, because we made sure it was. We weren't going to wait until the time we hit the floor and say, well, who requested what? Did you request? You know, whether you did or not, it's up to you how you communicated with the governor's office. But we know what the governor has pegged for the Department of Education, so we'll be talking about that as well. With that, we want to thank you once again, and we'll work with you on getting some more detailed description in terms of program and object categories so that we can really vet the veracity of your ability to bring people on board and to get those programs moving forward. Or, will you need some flexibility internally maybe to use funds for other purposes when you know already that you've hit mid-fiscal year and you're just unable to recruit. So those are dynamic discussions that we'll be having going forward. With that, Chairman Vince Bora, we are using the clock. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to the GDOE team and the board for coming down today. Some of the questions I'll be asking will be from the execution plan that you guys submitted for Q1, the AFC report, the February one, which is the latest one that OFB has, and then of course the budget schedule that was submitted and approved by the board. But before we get into those specific questions, some housekeeping stuff. The DOI approval, has there been any update on approval to or feedback on whether or not you can use that reimbursement?
No, we've made 3 requests. I personally made a request when I was in DC with Dr. Forster, only to learn that the Department of Education, U.S. Department of Education, the employees or the experts, those most knowledgeable about the different programs in the department have either one, released, and only 1 or 2 individuals are being transferred to the different department. Dr. Forrester is the only person who we have been working with on all our federal grants, that she is the only person being moved to US DOE, no one else. She does not, and she is not familiar with our request to get a letter of determination. We've also contacted our counsel in the U.S., the Brumman Company, and they too have been trying to track down who it is that they need to get this letter of determination. And to date, we just haven't heard anything.
Okay. And then in ARP, I know the last hearing, we talked about the construction or the refurbishment project. How much, again, money was sent back for ARP? We didn't spend by the March 30 deadline.
About $3 million.
$3 million, okay. And that's going to be, again, to be covered by, and is that still outstanding, or did we pay that off already with local funds?
No, that ends basically. So any other invoices that we've received related to that would have to come from local funds.
Okay. And then that hearing is why I asked you in regards to like any outstanding invoices, what are the amounts and to who do we owe right now, the department?
The prime money still owed is to the construction company that did the refurbishment of the 12 schools. There's different guidance being shared with us. The procurement processes were not followed at the time, so now it throws up a legal considerations and questions that have come our way. And so we're looking at between $20 and $30 million in that refurbishment contract. But because the procurement processes weren't done, dot the I's and cross the T's, and the legality of it all, we've been told to hold. And so that's what we're doing. The invoices are out there, the requests to be paid are out there. The implications that if you don't pay us tomorrow, we will start charging you interest and late fees. And all of that is out there. But we are on hold right now.
Okay, thank you for that. Madam Superintendent, your budget submission that was approved by the board shows the total student enrollment at 23,121, and that was as of September 30, down from its high of 31,000, which is a loss of 8,252, a 26% decline. In that same period, the budget request has gone from 266, which has pretty much just been what the legislature appropriated, to 307 now, which is a 15.5% increase, which brings your per student cost to about 13,279, up from 11,000. I guess my question is, what is the, based on your vision, what is your educational outcome, and how do you plan, like in your own words, what are you trying to measure, or what are you looking to measure based on your budget requests?
Well, first of all,
Or are you just playing catch-up?
well, we're doing that. I mean, like we stated in the last hearing, that we're basically on a journey of discovery. We are discovering a lot of things, and we're trying to fix, those. But I also want the legislature to understand as well that even though when our budget has gone up and our population has gone down, doesn't necessarily mean that instruction, has gone down as well. I'd like to explain, however, because many of you were not here, maybe, is that there are all these years in which there's been increases in salaries, which is the largest, 86.5%. In 2021 and 24, the nurses got a pay raise. On 2022, the educators' pay plan also was implemented. In 2023, the general pay plan for everyone in the department also was implemented. And 2024, the attorney's pay plan. All of these are all related to personnel, and personnel is the largest, like I said, 86.5%, and that has been the increase. Now, granted, there are going to be other increases as well in the other object categories, but personnel is the largest of all. And what we've not even, and in the request that you notice is that what we have put in, aside from trying to implement and follow all these mandates, one of the biggest mandate that we have is our CBAs, which is the collective bargaining agreement. And the amount that you're seeing actually is attributed to, most of it, to CBA positions. And what that is, and I have a breakdown of that, is 334 all CBA positions required. 334 new positions. And that's what we included in our budget.
Thank you. For the FY, part of the FY2027, the budget request shows you're requesting funding for 442 additional FTEs. I know a lot of that is CBA, correct?
334.
And then
other new positions at Central will be 30, and a lot of those are like auditors and individual skilled laborers for facilities and maintenance. Those are the two primary positions that we're requesting for.
I'm just curious about the Central one, because there's always been a narrative that Central was very bloated.
Well,
what are the additional 30 positions that you're asking for?
So these are the positions, new positions for Central. Auditor 1, an auditor 4, 3 carpenter 1s, 4 carpenter 2, 4 maintenance 2 workers, 11 maintenance worker, 1 payroll clerk 3, 1 personnel specialist 2, 2 plumbers, 3 plumber 2s, 2 refrigeration mechanic 2, and 1 storekeeper. Those are the Central positions. These are not like, clerical positions that everybody always kind of talks, about. And then the positions, the new positions for our CBA, I can just go through that. Administrative assistant, 37 clerks, 2 Head Start, 8, 1 junior ROTC instructor for the Army, 16 library tech, 1 licensed practical nurse, 60 school aides, these are para-educators, 21 school aid 1 for kinder, 3 school aid 1 for 1 to 5, grades 1 to 5, 80 school aides 1 for ESL and teacher assistants, 94 school aides 1, these are the CBA, the 1-to-1 adult support, 16 teacher counselors, and 2 librarians. Those are the positions that we're requesting for. So it's not padding or increasing the numbers at Central Office. As a matter of fact, we have been cross-leveling. We've been transferring to where some of these extra positions are needed. We're also transferring those that are considered as certified teachers to the classrooms, because that's our priority, to fill our classrooms. So we are decreasing, yes, Central, and increasing and responding to the needs of our children in the classrooms at the school level.
Thank you. Your February EFSC report, which is done by the EFC Commission, rates GDOE stable. That's the highest rating, which gives you a positive variance in every category. And that was as of February 28th. The general fund showed at that time 148.6 million left into the fiscal year. But then the Q1 fiscal execution report that your office submitted with the budget execution rate target at 95%, with your Q1 actual at 20%. In the footnotes of the execution plan that you submitted, you only executed 78%, meaning you lapsed roughly about 64 million. So my question is, while we're in the last meeting, the last hearing, we talked about internal audit saying that you guys are running in a deficit, but your EFC commission is saying you're stable, well within the budget on the appropriation you already have. But then we're also asking 40 more million to operate, which again, if we cannot deploy the 266 right now, just based on the reporting, what is the operational basis to continue to request for the 307?
So we get lots of financial guidance, as you know. And the latest guidance that we've gotten from our internal auditors is that if we continue at the pace we're going right now, GDOE will go into deficit spending. So are we going to spend the allotment that we have? Absolutely. And more so, if we could. It's just that, as the superintendent said earlier, we've been on a journey of discovery. So things are coming up.
In that EFSC report, it said that you're projected to lapse about $2 million. So what's the variance, or what's wrong here?
Oh, well, that's an interesting concept because
It's not a concept. It's in the report that was just released, or that we got from the EFC report last week, Thursday.
Yeah, I will have to talk to my staff on that to clarify it.
Okay. And then even right now, how much money do you have in the
We
bank?
are anticipating and spending all the money. So I will get back to you on that.
Okay. Next question. The governor requested the 266.5 for FY27. You're requesting 307. Obviously, that's a 40.4 difference. EFC rating A stable at the lower number. Your Q1 execution at 20. Your enrollment is down 26%. I guess one of my other questions is, considering and again, we can talk about, Dr. Wampat, at the beginning, we talked about data, and I guess what we're looking at is the maximization. I know that you talked about going back to that. What is the latest in regards to trying to cross-level, or any updates to the maximization?
Yes, when we came in, we had requested for all of the master schedules from the school principals, and we reviewed them and have spoken to the principals to maximize and do the cross-leveling. And of course, I know research has always said that the lower the class load, the greater it is in terms of instructional growth. But then at this time, with our financial, constraints, is that we needed to look at maximizing as much as possible, not just our classrooms, but also, of course, our teachers. So some of our teachers, based then on some of the vacancies that they have, that with the cross-leveling, they have reduced the numbers. Like, for example, FB in the cross-leveling was able to free up 17 teachers. Simon Sanchez needed 7, but because of cross-leveling, they only need 2. But those are some of the things that we are currently implementing this particular year, and of course, even in the next fiscal year. So they are all aware of that. And even to the point of, just put it out in the air, is that when Dr. Swanson and his previous team knew that they had vacancies, they knew they didn't have money to continue with their current budget, is that they proceeded with decommissioning, looking at decommissioning some schools. And as you know, if LBJ and Brody were decommissioned. So the concept of that is that when you take the teachers, they would follow, of course, their children. But in addition, when you cross-level and do your master scheduling, then you do the blending of 2 different schools and their schedules, then you're really maximizing your class sizes. The extra teachers then would go and fill other positions in other schools, so that would help the department in terms of, 1, filling those positions, and 2, of course, a cost savings. And so that is something that we're still actually considering talking about as well, because I know where you guys are all coming from, been there, done that. So going through this whole process. So I'm coming forward, not necessarily to pad our budget. We really, when we were doing this, trust me, when I was going through this with our people in accounting, we went through 5, 6 reiterations, because I kept saying, go back, Then I took in our federal people and I said, what can we transfer? What can the federal grants cover that we don't have to request? And we did all that. We scrubbed this budget to the point that the skin may be falling off already. I mean, that's how much we went through this. How much further could we scrub it? That is totally dependent, again, in terms of one, and I want you guys to know this, because you tied my hands when I requested that you provide legislation to allow us to lease out our schools. You made it difficult by requiring me to go out and get a certified appraiser, money I don't have, to do that for every building, I'm not just talking about these two schools, but I'm talking about even individual classrooms right now where departments are asking me, do you have 5 classrooms available because I need a division to go there? But I can't do it unless I do an appraisal. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to take advantage of this while I have your attention, is that change that, amend it, and make it instead the prevailing rate per square footage of that particular area. You're going to help me. Or tell me, go and use the valuation from Rev and Tax, because they did it. They got a certified appraiser who did it for the entire island. So now granted, that's several years old already, but that will definitely help us. I'll stick to your 60% for nonprofit organizations and 90% for those private entities. But you got to help me here. Untie my hands. I can lease those properties out, and that's extra money that I can bring in. And of course, yes, that's not the only thing that's going to help us. I'm also considering, because we have to maximize full utilization, yes, of our facilities, because it's costly to maintain those facilities. That, like, for example, I have 2 less schools now to worry about if I can lease it out, and that will be part of the agreement. But I need that language to be amended to help us. So help us help ourselves. Thank you.
For the record, we didn't tie your hands. I'm just kidding. The other question I had was last budget there was I think it was 304 was what they asked, and Dr. Swanson at the time said that if we didn't give them the budget, they were going to shut down 5 schools. We gave you 263 or 266. What will happen if you don't get the 307? What is the worst case scenario?
Well, several things, of course, like I said to you. One is the decommission schools to lease out, to decommission additional schools, not because I want to, but it's financially sound to do so in terms of underutilizing a school, classrooms, wings that are available that I can lease out. That's one. The other, and I hope you consider this, is that our contract is going to be up soon, it's going to mature for GIF. And I hope that the money that we're currently paying out to that is that you use that money and appropriate that to the department for us to use now for facilities. Because remember, we're taking care now, we'll take over for those schools. So that definitely is, one way to help us. I mean, we're not a revenue generating institution, but now we're having to look and see how we can also help ourselves. And that's the only way, by giving us that vehicle to lease our buildings.
I'd like to add some information if I could. So there's been a commission that was established to look at the schools, declining populations, that kind of stuff. And that commission has met with the superintendent, and they had recommendations on different phases of adjustments to the school facilities, decommissioning opportunities and stuff like that. So that's being looked at very hard. But one of the things I want to share with you is that, for example, LBJ and Chief Brody have already closed, we all know that. So the average power bill at LBJ before the closure was $14,000 a month. The average power bill, because we have to try to prevent mold and stuff, so the average power bill at LBJ after the closure is $3,500 a month. That's a 75% reduction in power. The water at LBJ went from $5,000 a month to $3,500, so 30% reduction in the water bill. Chief Brody power before closure was $18,000 a month. After closure, $7,000 a month. 61% reduction in the power bill. So, and the water went from 11,000 a month to 3,000 a month, and there could have been some leaks in there, but that's a 72% reduction. So, you know, the commission has recommended that it makes sense to look at population swings and densities and opportunities to combine school populations, and that's what's being looked at.
Last question.
And may I just, because I didn't answer, I know all of your questions, what else can we do? But the largest cost, of course, is personnel. And so when we transfer, when we decommission a school, when the students go, naturally the teachers go. But then when you do the cross-leveling and you create one master's schedule and you maximize those classrooms, there will be extra teachers. Now those teachers will go in and fill the vacancies in other schools. And therefore we're going to be getting certified teachers in there, so that would address that question as well. So definitely one. And in looking at that, and we just kind of did a minor kind of analysis in terms of what schools maybe should we be looking at, and I brought in the team. I asked for the study that was done prior to us coming in, and there was 4 phases of that plan. The first phase was LBJ and Brody, then there's the second phase for another group of schools, and then there's the third and fourth. And just to kind of get an idea of what this would cost, okay? So if I was to, let's say, go in and look at 6 schools and try to decommission, 3 of them, what would the savings be? And that right now we're looking at just, for utilities is about $516,000. For contractual, how much would I be saving? Like $281,000. For personnel, services, like I said, that's probably the lowest of all, primarily because one, they will go in and fill a vacant position. If I was to do 2 schools, then it's $352 for utilities, and for contractual, it would be $188. But then when you take the 2 schools currently that are decommissioned, we're looking at just those two schools alone for their facilities. One we looked at the revenue tax property valuation. For one school would be like $500,000 a year, and the other maybe would be $300,000. Granted, it's not in the millions, but those are things that we're looking at that can help us with, operations.
Was closing JP Torres a cost-saving measure? And how much?
JP Torres is a program. So the savings there really is not great, because meaning that the teachers will go in again to fill vacancies in the schools. The only teacher positions that will not be filled are those that we currently have students at Sanctuary and DYA. Those will remain. We transfer those positions to a school closest to those facilities. The savings, well, I guess would be for us, the greatest saving is the facility. It's a whole wing of 10 classrooms that will be used by Simon Sanchez High School when they move over to teaching.
So how do you plan to address what JP Torres was doing in regards to credit recovery?
They would all return to the original school, their school of origin. We only have right now only about 3 maybe students. We would graduate those this summer. Not that 3. The 3 are the ones that will go back to the schools. The ones that we have that currently will graduate is about 15 students. So we've just about basically phased out everyone with the exception of maybe 3 students. And so they would continue. The other is that we do have an agreement with ASMUJA where they would get federal funds for any one of these, our children, who would want to go there and take courses and graduate, from there. Otherwise, they go back to their home school and they'll graduate with their class. And then, of course, we have summer school as well.
Okay, my final question. I asked the previous team this because I know we're still playing patchwork with a lot of the schools. I know there's still areas amongst the different schools that are closed off for public health, right, in order for them to pass the inspection. So my question is, has there been an assessment, because there was the one done by the previous team, on how much it's going to cost to address all the outstanding maintenance issues? The reason I ask this is because if we don't have that, or we're not looking at that, we're going to be talking about this in 3 to 5, 10 years. Because I went to a cross-country or a meet a couple months ago, a month or 2 ago, And an area at Magaʹhågan Middle School that has been closed off since last year is still closed off with no plan to address it. So my final question, again, because of all that, is what is the plan? Do you have an estimate of what all this is going to cost to, I mean, we're either going to demolish that part of the school, repair it. What is the plan? Because that's one of many patches of work across the department.
So we do have an estimate cost of a deferred maintenance and capital improvement of $10 million. That's not part of this 307. We also have unfunded costs that we've put in for the ADA compliance. Remember, you have a law already that was passed in 23, and that then is going to cost $12 million. We were able to contract this out to Siemens, who did a study of all of our schools to address the areas, and that's how we were able to come up with this dollar amount. So, so 10 million for deferred maintenance, and for ADA 12 million. That's not part of this budget.
My time's up. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'd also
Thank you,
like to
Senator.
add, if I could.
Sure.
The cordoned off areas, we saw them personally. Superintendent and I went out to the schools. These are more or less, these are buildings that are slated for demolition, old temporary buildings, old temporary classrooms. They're cordoned off for safety. So we had a bid. I just wanted to tell you an example of the progress that's being made in the maintenance, because the new deputy under facilities maintenance, she's all about accountability and data. She's data driven. If you talk to the principals, the ones that I've talked to, they will say that the facilities maintenance response and effectiveness has greatly improved. So that's a plus. But I wanted to share with you that we had a bid, the lowest bid, to demolish one of the classrooms for $120,000. The superintendent tried to be innovative by putting out there that anybody want to volunteer to demolish it and get the tin or stuff like that. There was something in it for them. We had 0 takers on it because it involves sweat equity. But what we did do is facilities had purchased a backhoe and a big, large capacity dump truck within our facilities. So our facility said, we can do a demolition. So the bid was $120,000, and our F&M did it in 2 days at just normal personnel costs and stuff. It's a huge saving. Can we demolish all of those buildings now in all of the schools? The answer is yes. We just have to get to it. But we've already proven the concept. We've proven the savings. We'll continue executing. Thank you.
Luis Masi, to the Chairman on Education. And while we have the board members here, I just want to take the superintendent's plea and ask you to please take up in your next regularly held board meeting to discuss amendments to the current law, which many of us tried to give you more flexibility in, on what you actually need to execute that law to be able to utilize your facilities to the highest and best use, so we can move forward. Because I like this discussion on it's going to be catastrophic, moving from that to we need this and we'll work to get where we can, and here we got some ideas so that we can do this, particularly savings when it comes to being able to use equipment purchases to outdo a contract for $100 and some thousand, and then calculating your manpower, that was probably a few $1,000s in terms of a couple of days, and you already had the equipment, so you're on it. So please, if I can get the board to take that up in your next meeting, to have that as an agenda item, we'd really appreciate it.
Senator, I'm so sorry. I know you should defer to her, but I just want you to know that we did that already.
Okay.
It's here. All of the mandates, all the authorizations are all listed, and we've checked marked what are some of the ones that we would really like to work with you to either amend or even repeal. Primarily, when I'm talking about repeal, I'm talking about you not mandating it where I can't use federal funds, because now I'll be supplanting because you've mandated it for us to do this.
Got it.
And if we repeal those, I would put it back in federal funds again.
And that doesn't skip the points, it just gives you better internal flexibility, correct? Thank you. Now we're cooking with gas, like my uncle used to say. Go ahead, Ms.
Senator Dueñas, one of the things that I think we should all consider as well are the regulations that are being used by public health to inspect the schools. As an example, based on the high humidity that we now see in the restrooms, there's a requirement for air conditioners in the restrooms. So these are, I mean, you know, and then measuring the size of the door for a bathroom. I mean, so we really need to seriously take a look at that. And how can we get those regulations expeditiously modified? Because if the areas are cordoned off and we can't use them for instruction, then, you know, then we're having to deal with other areas of the schools. But I think we need to include that as well. Doing the modifications or amendments to law that already exist are okay, that's great. But we also need to consider the modifications for the rules and regulations for public health inspections.
That sounds appropriate. I mean, let's be honest. Most of us are coming from homes where we don't even have air conditioning in our own bathroom. And I think we can handle using it. But of course, if it means better ventilation and whatever that is, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, we also do clean our restrooms and make sure that we don't have, you know, things that are growing that are going to cause us issues, right? But the reality is most of us have restrooms that are using ambient air to be able to have their
Senator,
existence.
if I
Yes.
can make one comment.
Yes.
Thank you. You know, I've sort of looked at the regulations, and I think they were perhaps adopted for another jurisdiction to use on Guam, and they don't all fit in. They, as was just discussed, they don't sort of fit our needs. And I think it would be interesting if you had a hearing with public health and really ask them about their regulations, how they develop them, where do they get them from, the public hearings, did they have the public hearings for proper input? Did DOE have a chance to give input? I don't recall that, and I think that would have been very valuable. Thank you.
Yeah, I think history will show that as we went through the demerit process, there was a refinement. And there was a lot of issues that, there certainly were issues, no question about it. And I'm sure there still probably are issues. But what I'm saying is it did get to the point to where even during hearings subsequent to that we had, the demerit process was taken a little bit closer look at. Sidus Masi. Senator Gumatata, you recognized at this time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to GDOE and the board for being with us this morning. I'll just jump right into it. For the record, does GDOE anticipate having only 13 teacher vacancies across our 39 public schools in FY 2027? And are any of these positions currently vacant but filled temporarily with the help of retired GDOE educators?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Currently, this is what our principals have given us, is that for the elementary school division, there are 47 vacancies. For the middle school, there are 39 vacancies, and for the high school, 30 vacancies. So as of today, there's 116 vacancies. Now, normally what we do is that we fill them, first of all, with certified teachers, those who have applied. The second on the list would be retired certified teachers, because they're the only ones by law that can go back in as contract. The third would be what we call limited term teachers. And many times these are teachers, yes, with degrees, but because they do not have the secondary course requirements, they are limited term teachers and are given about a year to try to take 6 credits within that year to be able or to be allowed to continue again for the following year. Many of these teachers, because of the fact that they're limited term and their salaries are lower, the retention rate is very low. And so we're trying to, and I've asked the board if we could have a tri-board meeting so that we can meet with the certification office to see what we can do, because we're not we can recruit, but we can't retain them for the mere fact about being limited term. We have other teachers also who have tried to come to Guam to teach. These are individuals from our neighbors in particular. I'm not talking about Taiwan, Japan, or Korea, but these are our neighbors in the Mariana Islands, and they're given a difficult time being certified. But as soon as they land in the mainland U.S., they're hired immediately, and I can't even fathom as to why. We're turning away qualified, teachers. So we definitely need to look at that. We're addressing it. We're having conversations with the education college at the University of Guam. So that is a big issue that everyone, honestly, in the educational system is concerned about. But yes, that's how we want to be able to fill those vacancies. The other, when we decommission schools, and then those teachers who follow their children, the extra teachers, we will fill the vacancies. Because if we're talking about the elementary, then we can only then place those teachers in elementary divisions, however, in elementary schools. But because middle school includes 6th graders, which used to be K to 6, then they can have that certification to teach in the middle school, like 6th grade classes. So then they would go there. If we decommission, let's say middle school is a different story, then the extra teachers will go to middle school or high school, and the same for high schools.
And why I'm asking, because in your fiscal year 2027, Schedule D, it's only showing 13 teachers. That's why I'm asking on the record. You just expanded from 13 to nearly almost over 40 vacancies. Am I reading this wrong?
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, it's the Government of Guam fiscal year 2027, Schedule D, summary by position title, and it shows only 13 teacher vacancies, various.
Well, you're right, because, you're right. These are the ones that, right now we just can't recruit. These are the ones that we need then to fill. These other positions that I gave you are the ones where they are filled by non-certified teachers.
But I'm saying that, are we getting those educators in and actually filling some of these roles? I mean, it was very broad, but I didn't get a clarification.
I can add a little to that, because HR, they have successfully recruited fiscal year to date 41 teachers, 41. But however, 41 teachers have retired, moved to Dodea, moved to the States, or passed on, or for whatever reason. So although the efforts are strong and aggressive to recruit, and we have recruited successfully 41, but people are starting to retire, they're getting promotions. So it looks like we're doing nothing. It looks like it's status quo, when in reality, we hired 41 new teachers.
Oh no, Franklin, and I'm not saying you didn't do anything.
No, I know, but I just wanted to share with you that it's an ongoing situation.
Okay, regarding the coverage for classes where teachers are absent due to long-term medical illness or military orders, can you help us understand how many school days have teachers been out for medical, military service reasons, and how many of the 60 substitute teachers requested for next year's budget are anticipated to be on a long-term appointment?
That's a very good question, and we've asked ourselves that question as well. So I've instructed payroll and HR to get the data for us, because I have seen the numbers where we have individuals, and this we can't control, and there's nothing we can do, are those that are deployed, and they're gone for 6 months. I found out recently we had a school administrator that was gone for 5 years, and that has been ongoing, not just with us, but with other departments and agencies. Then yes, we have the long-term medical leave, because we allow for the sharing of sick leave for those who don't, so they continue. I have somebody also who's on that. I have a couple, as a matter of fact, 5 years, and I have one that's 1 year right now. But then there are other positions as well in terms of being away for administrative leave as well, and that we're addressing. So all those are things that we are currently collecting data on those to see how we can help. What I found out from previous budget, and I heard this when I was watching the DOE budget, was that they were requesting for to allow rather the department to pay for a certified teacher, which is great, during the teacher's prep period to cover for an absent teacher. Now, if I hire a substitute teacher, it's what, $15 an hour. If I hire maybe a limited term teacher, and that's something we're also looking at, to possibly hire what we call like a roving limited term teacher with a degree versus just a high school substitute teacher to cover classes, is much cheaper than for me to pay another certified teacher at $35 an hour. So I saw that when we came in, and I had questioned that, and I said, we don't have the money for it. It wasn't budgeted for, but because it was used previously, they were under the impression to continue to do that, and that's not happening now. So those are one of our discoveries as well that we are now trying to deal with, and that's why we need to have this conversation about, you know, certification, certified teachers, because I remember the day when I was in the system where we needed to recruit teachers and school administrators from the community. These are individuals with degrees, bachelor's, master's, or doctorate, that we could hire immediately, bring them in. DOE used to do the emergency certification. Now it's, since the certification office has taken over, it's a limited term certification. So you bring these individuals in with practical experience and knowledge. Then we do an expedited educational course at the university. We haven't done that now, I mean, for many years, and that's something I want to try to revive again, because there are individuals in our community who have retired maybe and want to work. There are professors who want to work at our schools, but they can't because certification office, again, would not allow them because they need to take the course. Dr. Guthers is an example of that herself as a professor. In order for her to teach, best for her to explain her experience.
Yes, please, Dr. Guthers.
Thank you very much, Senator. Yes, I was going to suggest that currently we have a law, and I think it goes back to the time when Dr. Wampat was Speaker, that allows the school system to hire retired teachers, along with retired nurses for GMH, et cetera. And I would really like to suggest that that law be amended to authorize retired professors from the Guam Community College, from University of Guam, that have the appropriate degrees, to be allowed to teach, if they're interested in teaching for periods of need, for the Department of Education. We have retired math professors, chemistry professors, humanities professors, professors in all the fields with doctoral degrees. And I did that once when I left the legislature because I wanted to find out what it was like to teach in the classroom. But I had to go through the requirements, the teacher certification requirements, even though I have a doctoral degree and 30 years of teaching experience. It took me a year to take all of the School of Education classes. The professors don't want to go through that. They already have their credentials. They don't mind participating in a workshop, how to teach in high school or in middle school. But to force them to go through all the coursework again, it doesn't serve a helpful purpose, and it prolongs the lack of having qualified people. So my suggestion is amend the law so that retired UOG, GC professors that meet the teaching needs, perhaps that DOE needs at certain times, to be able to teach at the school system and not have to go through the certification process.
So you might want to add to your list, by the way.
Yeah,
and
my
we can help.
experience was that, actually.
Oh, no, and I know.
But I did get certified. That's the difference. The other professors I talked to, they're willing to help. They want to do something to help the schools, but they're not willing to go through the certification process. They've taught their whole life. Another suggestion, and we're going to be taking this up.
Your list is getting big, so I mean, go ahead and say it. But yes, go ahead.
Yes, we're going to consider something at the board in a future meeting. I believe we need to petition the University of Guam as a board to reinstate the undergraduate degree in education. They no longer offer an undergraduate degree in education. We need young people to start early to be teachers. We want our high school students to have that goal, that they want to be a teacher, and they want to start the bachelor's degree in education right after high school so that they can be prepared to go into our school system. If you have to have a master's degree to teach in DOE, and that's what the School of Ed is offering, master's degrees, not the bachelor degree anymore. I don't know why it's so exclusive, but the board will consider, I will introduce a motion to the board to consider passing a resolution.
And again, the list is becoming big. I know I don't have a lot of time, but let me go ahead and just jump right back in. Let's talk a little bit about the annual dropout rate, if we could. And it's important for this discussion. What information, including school resource limitations, is available based on a review by DOE of the reasons that might have led more students to drop out? And this goes back to the school year 23-24, recognizing that although fewer high school students are dropping out of GDOE in the school year 2022 and 2023 compared to the last decade prior, the number of students who dropped out of high school tripled from 18 in school year 2022-23 to 60 in 2023 and 2024. And why I'm asking this is what specific schools or grade levels are accounting for the spike of dropouts, and is this concentrated in particular communities across our island?
This is not just a problem here, it's also nationwide, because we were going through COVID, and one of the requirements of the grant monies was to ask us to use hire individuals like social workers to go out and find these children who didn't return to school when we, felt that it was safe for them to return. So we saw, yes, a lot of students drop out. We also saw some students as well, and I don't know if it's dropping out per se, but may have moved off island or transferred to another school, and that's where you see our numbers have reduced, and that's as a result of double session as well. Because there are some parents and students who felt that they didn't want their children getting out so late, so because they're unable to participate in some of the sports maybe that they've invested in for so long. And then the other is that the lateness of returning home, having dinner, doing homework, and then getting up again the next day. So those are some of the things that have attributed to our children dropping out. And of course, the other would be just those that are having transportation problems as well, which is what we heard. We heard also that some of these children just feel that they don't belong. And so those are some of the issues that we are currently looking at and will be addressing in the next 3-year consolidated grant programs.
Okay, which is a good segue, because the last two are important in 2026. We can debate all day on the COVID side, which gets me to my question is, so what specific programs does the FY2027 budget fund for dropout prevention, early intervention, and re-engagement of students who left in school year 23-24?
That is not included at all in the local budget. That is part of our consolidated grant programs. That's under federal. And so we've hired social workers as a result of that to try to reach out to those students. I've been working very closely with our counselors. We're looking also at a program, a screeners program, so that we can survey our students to find out if they're having any kind of problems at home that we need to address and work with them. So yes, that's one of the newest programs that we would be implementing.
All right, thank you so much for that. Let me move on now. In my committee oversight, I just wanted to ask you about the School Resource Officer Program. So recognizing that GDOE students were confident that their schools were safe in 2024 than in 23 and in 2022, how has the School Resource Officer Program helped improve school safety? And is GDOE aware of any reason of why $1,042,577 from a total of $1.5 million in SRO funding appropriated to GPD through Public Law 37-135 was unspent as of September 30?
Unspent. Oh, well, that I can't answer for, but I do know that we continue to have the SRO positions. They are basically divided into certain number of schools to service, and if there is a definite need for them for any special event or maybe an event or that occurred in the school requiring their assistance for security or escorting, they are definitely present. I do know that there is this unique program, it's a pilot program with GPD to set up, like a cadet or an academy with one of our high school students, and our SROs are definitely very involved in that. The school principal wants to continue with that program. But how now the money is not being spent, I honestly don't have that answer for you, and I will definitely look into it.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent. I just have another question, Mr. Chair, and this is related to the limited gaming fund, and I know we can go on about the sports facility fund and the like, but outside of the $150,000 set aside for Interscholastic Sports Association equipment primarily, and $50,000 for ISA supplies, do you guys have any idea or any other projects that might be covered by the limited gaming fund in going into the balance of FY 2027?
Well, we have plans on this. There are so many facilities projects, but the sporting fields, we have requested for Okadu floodlights and bleachers. So there are requests for some of the school fields, athletic fields, to be addressed. We're looking at that right now. The more money that we have, we need Southern High School athletic fields fixed, period. But we don't have the money to do that right now. And the earlier example that we gave on the backhoe and the dump truck, the reason I give you that is because it was a little bit of an expensive tool, a backhoe, medium size, and a big capacity dump truck. But in that one demolition, it paid for one of those big tools. We're going to demolish now 6 to 10 or 12. We'll save $1 million or more. Given the right tools, we can effectuate more. We have people skills, our maintenance people. Just giving them the right tools will help a lot, and principals are seeing that. So as far as the sporting fields, when you're worrying about collapsing buildings, you need to demolish them, and it's not that it's not important. It's everything's important. So it's on our radar. The Okadu sport floodlights and the bleachers. We do plan to get to that.
Yeah, and it goes back to earlier discussions, and I'll leave it at this: is that you were talking about the league, the schools, and looking at opportunities to generate revenue. Nothing stops you from looking at those same sports facilities as potential revenue-generating types of ideas, or if you cannot maintain them, to give them to other folks, like maybe municipalities, nonprofit sports organizations. Those, in terms of, it's 2026. Some of the things that we probably would have done in 1976 just are not working today. Maybe we ought to consider modernizing and looking down the road of these types of opportunities to help, especially on the sports facility side. If we're not good at maintaining fields, let's maintain our classrooms first, and we'll take care of the fields later. Thank you again for being with us. And Mr. Chair, that's all I have. And thank you again for being with us.
So I won't take your time. So this is just separate, but you'll answer, related to your question, that other than using it, of course, for, fields or equipment for sports and everything, is that I will definitely look into it to see if there's an allowance for facility, because when I was pulling duty during the typhoon at Inalahan Middle School, the principal had told me that he had recently refurbished their floor, but because there are leaks in his roof, he really needs to get that repaired. And most definitely, now that you mentioned this, I'm going to make sure that funds that are still available in that gaming fund to be able to address some of these gyms at our schools.
Kusmasi, Senator Gumatata. Senator Tadiwi, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to my colleagues, and of course, good morning to those representing DOE this morning. The question I have with regards to, well, the big question, do you have enough funds right now to open all the schools for the FY26-27 year?
Well, we are currently, yes, using our budget, and we will get all of our schools open this year. That's the focus. Our facilities and maintenance people right now, although their priority would be at Tijan High School to make sure that, you know, the school is ready. So, but all the other principals are submitting their requests already to the deputy. And so she's been very vigilant in terms of collecting all the information and then having her people report to do the work. So we're not waiting until the summer to do this. Like I said, already, even at Tijan to get it ready, our guys have been there moving things out of the storage to get it ready. They've met with Cortec people as well to see what they can do and what we need to do. So absolutely, my deputy is on top of it to make sure that our schools will be ready. Lately, our schools have been, several schools, 7 schools already have passed with a grade of A, the others are Bs. The remaining schools to be inspected are sometime this month, next, and May, June, and July. So, and with, like, for example, with FB, what we're working with DEH is to make sure that we're not going to go in, have them come in and do the whole school inspection, but rather to cordon off the area that are still being currently worked on and only then inspect the schools that are ready, because we have to go with what we call a 0 citation to be able then to have it pass.
Okay, so let's say you don't receive this increase. I believe it's like $41 million increase for your budget for FY27. You will still be able to open.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, the next question I have is, are any of the programs previously funded by federal sources now requiring any general fund appropriations?
We have just a couple of days ago, we did receive something from SPED, a document from SPED, because there is what they call a maintenance of effort, meaning that for whatever dollar amount that they have provided for us, that we must also show in good faith. What we call maintenance of effort is to put in also so much either monies in terms of either local hires, so it's not all federal hires, that we also have the same. So we looked at it and we found that there's just a couple of, not sure what the exact dollar amount is that we're lacking. And so we're going to address that by making sure that that in hiring maybe school aides that are needed in SPED, that they're not paid out of federal dollars, that we use the local funds or transfer the individual paid under local funds to move over to SPED to meet that maintenance of effort. But that's the only one that I know where there is that request for like a matching, but we don't call it matching, it's a maintenance of effort.
So are there any federal funds that you'll be losing that you know of right now?
Well, it's not, no, we have a list that was given to us by our auditor of $81 million that we have between now and December to encumber, you know, and spend. So, and we are definitely pushing all of the division heads.
What's the deadline on that one?
December, the end of the year.
2026?
Yes.
Okay, 81 million, right?
Yes.
Okay, any problems with getting that spent?
Well, the only thing, the problem that we anticipate always has been going to the Attorney General's office. And I don't mean to throw the office under the bus, but when we first came in January, we found out that there were 2 proposals and RFPs that were there in the office, and we've actually requested the assistance of Senator Guåhan to follow up on it. We did get one released about, I'm not sure, a month ago, I think, for GCC, and just this month for Guam Trades Academy. So we don't want to risk any of these programs, especially for the schools, if they're going to be tied up. So one of the things that we're also doing, because we want to make sure that we're able to spend all of our budget this year, and with the authorization from the legislature to allow us to spend the lapsed funds by expanding it, is that we are looking at all the different divisions right now to send a staff to assist down at the procurement office, as we would train them as buyers to, prepare RFPs, so to give them the additional support that they would need to process all of those RFPs or the requests for all of these programs.
How, on the Attorney General's side, without his authority to sign on a spending, how much is that cap?
500,000.
I'm sorry?
$500,000.
So you have up to 500,000 without his authority, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So given that there are $29 million in question costs identified in the OPA's report, why should the legislature approve the current budget requested without a line item guarantee that these specific procurement failures have been addressed?
Now, I can tell you as the new DFAS, the second day I was in the office, I was told by the public auditor that I was 2 months late on some of the financial reports. Second day I was there. So there's lots of challenges, and we're addressing them head on. We're not shirking away from that responsibility. There were procurement audits. There was fiscal audits. There's all kinds of audits. One of the things that they've said to us time and time again is make sure that you improve and increase your procurement staff, the skills and training. Improve and increase the skills and training of your auditor staff, and pay them enough to retain them. We have some people who, in procurement, they go to an autonomous agency for the same job, they can make significantly more money. So we lose talent that we have. We need to garner new talent. What the superintendent was just talking about is that we have 366 changes every day, but we have 366 requisitions in our financial management system, Tyler Munis, to execute, 366. That does not include the money that she's just talking about of some of the federal funding that we need to obligate before the end of the year. We have a limited staff. Then we have the procurement processes of going back and forth with our legal, our audit team, and then in some cases, the Attorney General's office. So it is a process, it's a procedure, it's a challenge. So we've put our thinking cap on, we look outside the box, and we're asking for some assistance in our procurement area, but we're borrowing some resources that we can borrow temporarily within it. We can't have the expectation that they be fully skilled in the purchasing process, but they can help with some of the legwork that needs to be done to free up the time for those experts that can do it. So what we're looking right now with the 366 in our queue, with a lot more to come, is we need to take a serious look at that and figure out process-wise, dollar threshold values-wise, everything that can alleviate that. There's no intent to bypass any of the rules and regulations or procurement processes, but time is a big factor, and your throughput capability on your procurement journey, that capacity allows you to spend more. Some of the money we didn't get to because the procurements weren't executed. We lost some learning time when these contracts take so long. The students at GCC and Trades Academy came to class, but some of the contracts that needed to be approved for learning materials and stuff like that didn't happen for months after the class started. So it's just a lot of challenges. The procurement process takes time, and will we spend it all? The intent is to spend it all. Okay. But as you know, for Simon Sanchez, the best intentions get time delays because there's a protest. Once you have a protest, things stop. And So it's a process.
Thank you, Mr. Nyong'o. And I do understand there is shortage, but there is also technology out there that actually can help and assist you with those 300 acquisitions and things like that to move forward when, you know, the excuse of not having enough staff is no longer the case nowadays. You've got technology that would assist you, and I recommend, highly recommend that you utilize it. I'm not trying to nickel and dime the Department of Education. It's a very important agency, our children. This is our future. But my concern is you have over $63 million, not federal funds. We're talking about funds from the general fund in questionable costs. The $29 million in textbooks questioned. The $24.6 million in laptops questioned. And now we've got air conditioners at $10 million that can't even fit into our schools that was purchased and sitting in a warehouse since 1940. Things like that. It's about not just crossing your T's or dotting your I's, but it's being accountable for these funds that are missing. That's $63 million worth of questionable cost in these spendings. And we're still trying to figure that. And most of it's all thrown away or not even being able to be used. Okay, you have as many as 31 vacant positions. Have they already been filled? 31? Is that correct?
Okay, where? Oh, there.
Have they been filled?
No, no, not all of these positions are filled. What we do is that basically on a daily basis, is that we have people resigning, retiring, and then yes, we're recruiting all the time. And I'm signing off of all of this. Just yesterday I have one. But then when we vetted this individual, we couldn't very well hire them for, you know.
So there's 31, it hasn't all been
But
filled?
no, I don't know the exact number. I know when we prepared this, it was at 31, but the numbers change every day.
Okay, what about the 360, if those numbers are correct, 360 new positions?
You're right. Those are definitely, none of those have been, we've not hired any one of these because these are requests. And many of these are CBAs. These are to fulfill the collective bargaining agreement.
I'm sorry, say again, they're more what?
I'm sorry?
Say it again. I know it's this echo. Say it again.
But that these positions are new positions that we are requesting based on several, you know, of course, mandates, not just the 14 points, but even the collective bargaining agreement.
Is most of these new positions teachers' positions or maintenance?
No, well, I'll read to you the ones because everybody questions this for central office. And the central office, it's 2 auditors, 7 carpenters, 11 maintenance worker, 1 payroll clerk, 1 personnel specialist, 5 plumbers, 2 refrigeration mechanic,
it's
and
okay,
1
you don't have to
storekeeper.
name them all
You're right,
because it's
but-
300 and something
you're right,
positions.
But these that for central in particular, because I
Okay,
don't want
so the
anyone-
majority of it is central?
No, central's only 30.
Okay,
But
30%.
these are, like I said, mostly for the auditor, finance, and facilities and maintenance. The 334 are basically for all the schools. These are school aides positions, library clerks, you know, practical nurse, licensed practical nurse positions. And those are all part of CBA.
Madam Superintendent, of the master plan for 2022 for GDOE, has it been updated and what are the top priorities of that master plan?
When you say
Facilities master plan, the 2022?
The facilities,
sorry.
Well, yes, one of the top priority of, you know, would be the deferred maintenance that needs to be done at the schools because we've done an assessment. We also contracted out with Siemens to let us know what needs to be addressed for ADAs, and that's 12 million. So deferred maintenance is 10 million. So these are definitely priorities, but they're unfunded, and it is not even part of this $307 million, because otherwise it would take us up even more.
Okay, of the 643,564 is allocated specifically for facilities, repairs, maintenance, and improvements. Is that all going to capital outlay?
Wait, I'm looking, you're looking at the digest, the breakdown for,
Yeah, I'm seeing
trying to
that it's,
see.
yeah, of the FY23 capital outlay, 643,000.
the one you're saying, 748, where it, no, I'm trying to find that dollar amount that you're referring to. What is the dollar amount again?
643,564 for capital outlay, FY27.
Oh, total, okay, so total capital, you want 643,000. Let me see, I'm trying to find where. Okay, so we did find it. So what it is that part of the maintenance of effort is that SPED will order 4 buses, SPED buses, and we in turn, to do our maintenance of effort, we're going to order 2 buses, and they are at $300,000 for both, $150,000 each. And then for sports facilities, we're looking at the $343,000. And that's where the total amount comes out to.
I just want, yeah, so the maintenance of effort for SPED, there's 25 SPED buses. SPED is telling us they're more or less like you have a Guam bomb, they're kind of in disrepair, so to speak. The whole fleet is, you know, on any given day, any bus could be down, you might cannibalize from another bus. So the decision, the smart decision is to replace the fleet, 25. So SPED said if Guam, GDOE buys 2 buses, $150,000 each, so that's $300,000. That's part of what we were just talking about. We spend $300,000, they'll spend $600,000, the feds. They'll buy 4 if we buy 2. That's 6 new buses. We do that each year. Within a couple of years, we'll replace the fleet.
What is the status of this Siemens funded ADA assessment?
Well, we received the report from them, and it's been reviewed by the deputy, and that is why she was able to determine that based on what all the things that need to be done, it would take about $12 million.
I'll let you know that that was a very comprehensive report that we were given. It was done through Guam Power, an extension of an existing Guam Power contract. But I will tell you that it broke it down by every school. Every building and every school is identified as to what is required for ADA compliance. So that's how comprehensive it is. We just don't have the money for it right now.
That's 12 million, you said?
$12 million.
Is it in your budget?
No, but what my board can, of course, rule me out of order in this case because they have not approved my spend plan. But one of the items that I was putting in there was to address the ADA.
You're going to get sued if you don't. Last question. How are you measuring the students on their testing capabilities, or basically their evaluation? How are you measuring to see if the students are testing well in the schools? What funds are you putting toward that to ensure that our students are being, taught?
Not from local funds at all, again.
Sorry?
We're not using local funds for those tests. It's actually all through the consolidated grant. And we did say that that is a primary focus for us, is to look at our student achievement scores. And in this new 3-year consolidated grant, we've actually revamped what the monies were being used for in the past 15 years. The same thing, there's rolling it all over. It's very different now. We will be addressing numeracy and literacy skills with our children. We do use 2 tests, the Smarter Balance and Ames Web. But what we're also, and as a matter of fact, this morning at 8, I was in a teleconference with one of the consultants that will be working with us on our test scores and setting up our strategic plan and bringing in our stakeholders before we start implementing this plan, so to be able to raise our student scores.
How many times do you test? Is it every year that we test our students?
Thank you,
on their
Senator. That
achievements?
will be your
There's
last
one
question.
that's annual,
Your
and
time
the
is up.
other would be twice a year.
Twice a year. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. Senator Sabrina Salas Mantanani, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the panel. I'm just kind of going over all of the documents that are in front of us in your testimony. So the FY27 request is $307 million. That's a $41 million increase, correct? In comparison to the last school year, student population has decreased? Yes?
Yeah,
Yes.
last year I think it was like 24 something thousand, and I think now we're down to 23.
So student population is decreased, and yet the number of personnel has increased.
Yes,
And you need $23.5 million for unfunded costs, and that includes for ADA compliance, the deferred maintenance, capital improvements, and security enhancement for all schools.
yes.
Also looking at the documents, you need, is this correct, that you're requesting $10 million more for utility costs?
Actually, the utility cost is 18 million.
Right, and the FY26 authorized level was 8.4 million.
That's right.
So $10 million increase?
No, that's an interesting point. I can address that. The prior management team, before we got in Dr. Swanson and his team, they made a decision that when they finally got their allocation of money, their appropriation from the legislature, they did some moving money. They didn't feel that I can't speak for them exactly, but I can tell you what happened. They moved some money around. If this is a total appropriation, they moved some money around. They moved money out of the utilities. They wanted to do other things. I don't know what they were betting on the come. They moved 10 million out of utilities to spend it in other areas that they felt was a priority, with the hope and the prayer that money would become available and that they would make up for it before the power and the water got shut off.
So
Is GDOE current with their utilities?
Yes, we are, because it was reversed. But I'll just let you know that with the first time, which is about 2.5 years ago, when I was first appointed for 6 months as the acting superintendent, what I learned was that because the department used monies from ARP to pay for utilities. That's why you're seeing that lower number, because I know 2.5 years ago, that's exactly what was done. But today, of course, we don't have any more ARP monies to be able to pay for it, because it all went through construction.
Also in this budget, it incorporates salary increments, $14 million.
Absolutely. Every year, everyone in faculty and staff are evaluated. And from that evaluation, yes, there's always an increase. There's also, and I basically gave the senators, when you ask that question, why is it that our personnel costs have gone up? And it's gone up just most recently, just to share with you, is in 2021 and 2024, the nurses got a pay increase. 22, the educator pay plan went into effect. And 23, the general pay plan was for everyone, went into effect. And 2024, the attorney's pay plan also went into effect. So in essence, yes, every year we always expect an increase in for increments. There's also promotions. And then more importantly, this legislatively are all these pay plans that we have to implement. I would also say at the same time that there is a bill, laws and the book also for bonuses to be paid for, where the legislature has made an appropriation of a specific dollar amount to address that BRIP, which is bonuses, retention, incentive pay. And so, and of course, I've always asked the senators to be really cautious sometimes when we're requesting for legislation, that it places an impact in terms of our funding. And that's where a lot of the increases are coming from. And personnel is not something that we want to reduce.
And the reason why I was asking all that is because I just feel like we're not just funding operations at the Guam Department of Education, we're funding accountability. And so I just need some sort of assurance that the question really is whether the budget fixes the problems that we know exist. We've all seen the audit, we've all heard about the question cost, so I just need to feel assured that whatever money we're going to give to the department or appropriate to the Department of Education, it's going to go where it's supposed to go. And it's going to help our students, and it's going to fix the schools, and they're going to meet the safety inspections by the Department of Public Health.
Well, the focus with this new team coming forward, we said initially that one, we want to address our finances to make sure that our financial house is in order. The second one of our biggest problems and litigations that we're faced with is special education, so we're focusing on that. The third is that we're saying that the drive now, the focus is on student performance. So in this new contract that we sent to US GDOE for a consolidated grant, will be addressing numeracy and literacy programs in our schools. What we're also doing, and we're also holding everybody accountable, making sure that everyone in the department, the central office, that what they're doing actually impacts the child in the classroom, the children in the classroom, because that's our primary focus, and we're holding everyone accountable. It's not going to happen overnight. Changing attitudes, changing climates are going to take time, but we're starting to change all that by setting up what we call a portrait of what we expect everyone to do and what we expect in particular to address our students and their achievement.
I did want to follow up also on this move to, the Simon Sanchez High School students that are currently double sessioning. Is that move still going to happen, where they're going to be going to Tietzen?
Yes, and our guys, facilities and maintenance, are there almost on a daily basis. They did a walkthrough with facilities and maintenance and with Cortec. They had a meeting with them as well to look to see what Cortec would address, because they are the owner of the facility, and then our people to see what needs to be done. I know that they have already started to empty out some of the classrooms that have storage being used as storage, and those equipment and supplies, whatever, are being removed. And we're also looking at an RFP to address other issues, in particular plumbing. But that is moving forward. The principals meet on a weekly basis with my deputy, and sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, to address whatever issues that they need. So they have a bullet list, a checklist that they're going through. They listed everything that needs to be done and what we need to do to prepare the schools before the opening of the school year.
And this $10 million carve-out for the maintenance of schools in your budget request, is that truly enough?
That is, yeah, originally, yes, what I found out when I attended a board meeting was that some of them, or half of it, was actually used, yes, to pick up some new individuals for increase in salaries, and then the rest, of course, have gone to supplies and materials and equipment.
And one of my last questions is, we received a bill from the governor's office, I think it was last night, regarding what appears to be some workaround to get the construction of Simon Sanchez High School going, despite the fact that there is an active procurement protest. Is that something that the Guam Department of Education was advocating for or supports?
We are advocating for the school to be built. And 2.5 years ago, to give some of you history here, is that my last term is that I wrote the legislation to build Simon Sanchez High School. When I left, 2 other legislatures amended that law. And when I came in 2.5 years ago, I asked our legal counsel, why have we not moved on it? And she said, because the way the law was written, with the way the law was amended, made it difficult for anyone to move forward. So we got our legal counsel from DOE, your counsel here at the legislature, some of you would remember this, Mr. Senator Barnett, you were here, and Senator Duenas, you were here, and the governor's legal counsel. And all 3 worked the bill to amend the bill to get us to where we're at right now to start the process. Unfortunately, you're right, there's this protest. Our main concern is that we want the school, we want the school to be built. And however way in which what was sent to you and what you will do with it basically is in your hands, not mine. I can only advocate and lobby that please, whatever it would take for you to proceed with having this school built.
Thank you, Speaker Wampat, and I appreciate how you have been working together with the legislature and the oversight chair. And you did mention Ms. Okada, you mentioned about the inspections from the Department of Public Health and Social Services. And I completely understand what you're talking about, because when I was in the construction industry, our company actually volunteered to help repair some of the schools, and we didn't get paid for anything. We provided the supplies and materials because we understood, the urgency. And one of the things, when we went on the site visits to the schools, a lot of the principals were telling us just how unfair it seemed when these inspectors would go and do the inspections, and one inspector would come one day, and then the next week another inspector would come, and they had different rules. So I'm having an oversight hearing with the Department of Public Health, so I plan on bringing this up, but has there been any communication in writing or anything like that expressing these sorts of concerns to public health? And if so, what was their response?
Yes. If you recall, 18 of our schools were shut down from DH, and naturally the governor's office did enlist the help from every department and agency, including the autonomous agency. At that time, I was her chief advisor in education. Former Attorney General and former DOE legal counsel and former Senator Liz Barrett Anderson and I were working with certain individual school principals from the Department of Education to look at the rules and regulations for DH for school inspections. We made recommendations from all of them. We submitted our recommendations to Public Health. I've spoken personally to Tom Nadeau to see how soon he could have a AAA hearing to be able to go through all the amendments that we would like to see, and that has yet to happen.
Thank you. If you could, if you still have it in your files, if you could forward those recommendations to me, I'd truly appreciate it.
I'll be more than happy.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Masi, I also want to make sure I recognize the Vice Chair of this committee and Vice Speaker Ada, who's joined us earlier, as well as Senator Joseph Augustine. Thank you for being with us this morning. At this time, I recognize Senator Barnett for your questions.
Sujos Masi, Mr. Chair, and Sujos Masi, Superintendent Wampat, Deputy Leon Guerrero, Vice Chair Okada, and Chair Guthertz for your attendance this morning. I just want to first congratulate Superintendent Wampat on the official signing of your contract. Not yet? No. Well, the board has approved your...
Not yet, but you're right. We followed all of the 4 requirements from the AG. The meeting was last Tuesday. Wednesday morning, we hand-carried it to their office, but we've yet to hear.
Okay. Well, I hope that gets resolved, but congratulations are in order anyway, because the board did approve your salary of, I think, $210,000 per annum, which if you do the math on that for 4 years, not including the benefits, I think if we add in the benefits, that's going to be almost $1 million. So you're the highest paid superintendent in the history of the Guam Department of Education. So congratulations.
But definitely not compared to other school districts much smaller than Guam.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm going with this is, you know, the board was very accommodating in approving your salary request, and they approved it because they compared it to the national average with other superintendents and other similar districts. But when that story came out, I was in receipt of a lot of calls from teachers who would also appreciate it if they could see their pay get closer to the national average. And just some of the comments that I got were, and I'm sure you can understand, they were just very upset about the appearance that the superintendent would get taken care of in that manner, and the teachers are still waiting for any effort to increase their pay. So with that being said, is there any effort with the Guam Department of Education to bring teacher salaries closer to the national average, ma'am?
That is something that we definitely do support. But any kind of plan like that, has a study needs to be done. The last study, of course, that was done was the Hayes study plan, which actually addressed everyone in the government. And I personally had, at the time when I was a speaker, I personally addressed that question to the group, that when they look at the teacher's salary, that it's totally unique from any other department and agency, and they should not fall under a plan across the government because of their duties and responsibilities are different. But that plan, basically a study, needs to be done. And then, of course, it has to come to the legislature because you're going to have to appropriate the money for that. I would not be able, I can't even do a reclassification or an audit on certain number of positions. Let's say I want to do this for a group of individuals, not saying I'm going to take picking on them, but let's say for, you know, sociologists or psychologists, for example. But to get my HR people to go and do an audit for just that group of people, they wouldn't be able to do it in, you know, in a timely manner. We've actually, you know, have considered asking GDOE, because they're the ones who would do this for the government individually or maybe by group for that matter. But that's a separate request. But ultimately, it's going to have to come from the legislature because you need to appropriate the monies to give the pay raise. And I would love, yes, for our teachers to be paid comparable to that in the U.S. And maybe I would retain more of our teachers. And that is something that we're trying to address right now, even with the certification office, about our Chamorro language teachers who are on the ABC plan, you know, as a limited term position. And yet the load that they have, really, 130 students a day, and that's not the rule for in the CBA, because it's either 12 students in a class for special needs, 24 in the elementary, 28 in the middle, and 28 in the high school. And then here, you know, we're talking about these Chamorro language teachers who have a whole number of students. Some of them can go even up to as high as 200. So yes, I support that, and I would lobby for it.
Are you able to provide the numbers to the committee? I know you don't want to step on any toes, but you know, I met with the Guam Federation of Teachers. I have a draft bill ready to increase the teacher pay and bring it closer to the national average, but what's lacking, and hopefully we can sit down with this, is just the numbers.
Senator, as much as I like to say that that would be easy to do, because I've actually pondered, you know, doing such a thing when I was in your shoes. But like I said earlier, it has to be, you got to get experts to do this. Yeah. We are not an expert. I can't take from any school district their plan, their formula.
I just have to interrupt here, Superintendent Wampat, because I understand the comparison, but I think just for the teachers out there, when they see how easy it was for your pay to get adjusted upward to the national average, when they hear all this, you know, it's going to be pulling teeth, it's going to be so difficult. I think what we really need is just the political willpower to get it done. And so I hope you can support that, ma'am. And I hope the committee can support it too.
I definitely will support any move to do that, but for me to do that study, I am not qualified to do that, and therefore, and the last thing is very unfair to try to pit me and my salary with those of our teachers.
I'm not doing that, ma'am.
Because they are just as important to not just to me, as a former educator myself, as a teacher, so I take offense to that.
And I mean it respectfully, but I'm just sharing the concerns that I've received from my constituents, so I hope they haven't offended you in their thought process. You know, I think the bottom line is that they just want to be taken care of in the same manner that the leadership is taken care of. And, you know, I hope we can all agree on that, and I don't mean any offense, really. And I want to support your budget request, because I think what we've seen in this legislature is this hyper focus on the bottom line. And when we're so concerned about the bottom line, I think we lose sight of all the challenges that not just the Guam Department of Education faces, but agency after agency continues to come in here with pretty much status quo budgets, you know, inclusive of organic growth of salaries and benefits and those kind of things. And what we're seeing is that basic necessities like staffing, maintenance, those kind of things are left either underfunded or unfunded. And so I don't want to be the senator who's in here trying to nickel and dime the Guam Department of Education. I'm taking you at your word. I understand that there are many challenges, and I don't agree that we continue to move forward with these status quo budgets, which is why I respect your request, Madam Superintendent. And I'd also like to ask, so there was a story about the clawback of federal funds, and now we're saying that we're going to have to use local funds for things like special education. Is that included in your budget request, or is that part of the unfunded?
SPED funds are federal funds, so we don't pay anything with our local funds with the exception of our maintenance of effort. And we... Yeah, okay, sure. Thank you for reminding me that that's true. Out of our, I mean, normally the process is that with the budgeting process is that there's the federal funds, which covers SPED. Any local funds for SPED will be the maintenance of effort. What is different, however, this year when we came in is that we discovered again that Tiny Eye, the invoices were not paid. And because they were not paid, for previous years, which federal funds should have been used for them, we now have to use local funds. And we're finding that out really in several cases already where we really have to use local funds. There's the other case also that we discovered as well, that in the refurbishments of our 12 schools, all those contracts ended on December 31st. And we all came in, well, I came in December 31st at 5:01 p.m., but the rest of my staff came in on December 1st, which was a holiday. January 1st. So January 5th is actually the day we came in. March, ARP monies expired. What we found, of course, in that case, that anything after that date, December 31st, any invoices after that, which we could not put towards ARP, all have to be paid now out of local funds to the tune of about $20 million.
And that's not included in the $307 million budget request?
No.
Okay. Can you also confirm, I'm just hearing from different staff that there's been a shakeup in the leadership of the special education division. Are you able to confirm whether or not Mr. Tom Babauta and Mrs. Camacho are still on the job or the status of their employment?
Mr. Babauta basically has informed us that he's going on military duty from June to the end of the year, and that because of that time, he felt that he did not want to leave the division without, having someone be there for the whole time that he was going to be out, and have chosen to retire.
So you retired?
Yes, it will be at the end of the month.
Thank you. Are you also able to confirm, I know we had discussed J.P. Torres' closure, but I attended the induction ceremony for Inaran Elementary National Elementary Honor Society, and they asked me, Senator, can you please make sure that Inaran Elementary School is not shut down? So I'm just hearing from different staff again that there's discussions to shut down 7 other schools. Is this accurate?
Well, the first question is J.P. Torres. J.P. Torres is the name of a school that has been closed. The program is Success for All Academy, so it's a program. And the facility that they're currently using is a wing that will be part of the Simon Sanchez classroom. Because it's a program and the children are coming from various high schools, we will be graduating most of them, with the exception of 3, who will go back to their home school. There won't be any loss at all, because where those children come, their program, their courses that they would need will continue. They have 2 other options that we are also providing federal funds for them. We have an agreement with SMUJO where the children can go there and get their credits from them and graduate from them. The other is that GCC also offers as well for free for them the adult education program. And then the third option, like I said, is back at their own school. So that definitely is going to happen. The talk, rather, about some schools being considered to be decommissioned was actually was in the original plan that was put together during Dr. Swanson's time and his team. And there are 4 phases to that plan. The first phase we saw happen with Brody and LBJ. The second phase, yes, is looking at approximately 6 schools to be considered to be decommissioned. This is primarily for reasons of finances and for underutilization of a school facility and under-enrolled students in those schools. It'll be very difficult to continue to run those schools that are being underutilized. When those teachers whose schools may be decommissioned and combined with other schools, when the children move, the teachers will follow. But when you do your master's schedule and you cross level, there will be extra teachers then that would go and fill other vacancies in the elementary school and other elementary schools. And that's how it works. The decision to do this is not based on emotion or whatever it is. It's primarily a financial decision, and the savings for the other 2 schools are decommissioned are probably about $800,000 if I get authorization to lighten the law for me to go out and lease them. The other schools that we're looking at could potentially bring in about the same amount of money as well. The savings are not primarily in staffing, because like I said, they will go with their children and then they'll fill vacancies that we have. So
yeah, and again, I just think because you're leading with the finances is the reason, and it just goes back to shortchanging the people of Guam and the public school system, because, I mean, we shouldn't have to close these schools. Excess is excess, right? But at the end of the day, we all know that smaller class sizes are beneficial to the people of Guam, and I just don't appreciate the anxiety that a lot of our stakeholders have in thinking about whether or not their school is going to be closed. Because my conversation with Superintendent Swanson on his exit was that he liked, for example, the situation in Alahan Elementary School. A lot of our elementary schools are really village centric, and there's a lot of engagement and investment with the parent community, and he didn't, and you know, it's your decision now, but he didn't want to move forward with those closures because he felt like they were beneficial and a good model moving forward. I know my time's up, Mr. Chair, so just want to for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator. And I will also just want to reiterate, there's a lot of talk about the legislature, the legislature, the legislature. I want to open once again that the governor's request in the corpus of this request of $1.44 billion is $266,587. And I have always invited senators on the floor of the legislature. And the reason that I've made this pronouncement over and over again on status quo budgets for certain agencies is because they're lapsing in the hundreds of thousands and millions. Now, Department of Education, with this fiscal team, has corrected that and has a spending plan coming forward for the $70+ million in lapse funding going forward. That's why we're not talking about your lapses or going after your lapses or anything else, because you're prudent with your finances now going forward. But I've always invited senators to go through the budget as we're on the floor and de-appropriate any area that you want to within the ceiling to provide for those priority areas to which you deem. Not much takers, but anyways, we're going to continue to endeavor. And I will say that even with this number, we will be the highest amount appropriated to Department of Education in history. And that has been tracking up ever since. So I appreciate all the work that you're doing for accountability as we strive to get to the place that we need to be. Not shortchanging, but allowing the use of funds that are available through realized revenues. Thank you very much. With that, Senator Joseph Augustine, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank the panel for being here. I'm a very simple guy. I've dealt with these numbers before, so it's nothing new to me. You identified 116 vacancies, am I correct, Madam Superintendent? Yes or no? Yes?
Yes, but
What is the value?
Because those are what we call uncertified
I
positions.
just want to be, I'm a very simple person, Speaker, okay? 116 vacancies, what is that valued at? What's the dollar value? Come on, Frank, you should be able to get that.
Oh, gosh.
Very simple question, okay? 116, what's the dollar value? $1 million? Less?
Senator San Augustine, based on the budget submitted, there are 31 vacancies at a cost of $1.7 million. The 116 vacancies that the superintendent alluded to earlier, some of those positions are filled with uncertified or limited term teachers, so those are already funded. But the vacancies here, based on the budget submission, is 31 at $1.7 million.
Okay, when you identified that some of the 31 out of the 116, that the rest are filled by substitute and so forth, right? What did it cost? See, if you take a look at the whole 116, right, and you tell me it costs, if you filled it with every position that you individually you're supposed to fill it, what is that valued at? And then when you identify that you filled it with substitute, I already know the price is less. So what is the leftover money? And where did that money go? Because when you want to do numbers, be very careful, okay? I'm just saying, you said 116. Ms. Okada identified 31, 1.7. You filled the rest of 31 of 116 comes up to what? 70, 80? And what did that cost the department? And you had the funding for it because you filled it. So what's the difference of what that true value was if it was certified positions versus substitute? How much money was left? Because when we look at the budget, I don't look at how much it's going to cost you for substitute. You're identifying certified people. So if you're asking for 307 position, and you mentioned earlier maintenance of effort, what is that number should be? The 307 should be what amount should that be? It should go a lot less. Maintenance of effort will identify that it's approximately about maybe 266 million.
No, when the last figure we saw was that they were at 14 million, and then we needed to, and there's a difference of about 2 to 3 more, which we're looking right now, rather than putting the, so to speak, the cash, but positions to move them over to SPED.
I
to
understand
make
that.
up the difference.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, when you look at the budget total, 307, what would that number be if we identify the maintenance of effort required, right? How far from 307 are we looking at? Dropping maybe another 10, $20 million? I'm not trying to find a way to reduce your budget, okay?
Well, if
but I'm
we-
being very realistic, because in the past, even though we're looking forward and it's very positive, in the past, every time we try to identify funds, this is not the first time the DOE's asked for $300 million. I was on the Board of Education, we were asking for $300 million. Nothing new. It's already 20 years ago now.
Okay, and what?
We're still asking for $300 million. You never got $300 million. You're asking for $307 million. I'm just gonna keep rumbling along, okay?
So
yes, ma'am.
Senator, you're right. So when we pay for these, our certified teachers, they're anywhere between $60, $80, $1,000. Okay, and then when you hire limited term teachers, we're looking about $40-some thousand. And then when you're looking at the substitute teachers, those are like $15 basically an
And
hour.
that's what I'm getting
So-
at, Madam Superintendent, is that when we look at the budget, we say certified teacher, you just look at the number and we say, okay, $5-6 million. I'm just throwing this out in the open, okay? But when you drop to substitute, you keep going lower. That $5 million is really not $5 million no more. It's where maybe 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, you're right. If we hire
And-
more of the certified teachers.
Understood. But at the same token, when the legislature gives you a budget, at the end of the day, it's a blank check. It says, here's whatever amount that's passed in law. The board and you would sit down and say, okay, where do we want to put the money so we get the biggest bang for a dollar? Okay? The problem in the past, I'm not going to use the past as a basis, but the problem in the past is that they didn't really know how to take a look at the check and say where they want to put it, but they had all the excuses to claim that, well, you didn't give us money for interest class, you didn't give us money for this. Hardly handbrake. Because then when I look at your budget, you say you got $18 million for power, right?
Yes.
No, 19.
18.
18 million, right? How much is that? JFK got solar power, right? Solar panels? How many other schools? I know there's a pilot at Carbolito, or is it
No,
Chalampago?
No, only one JFK.
Only JFK, nothing at Chalampago?
No.
And how much money did you save there? Or is it connected?
Not
Well,
connected.
It's not.
Very good,
yeah,
very
still
good
not-
program, and that's not last year's issue. That's several years ago already, okay?
Yes.
And as we're moving forward, I'm trying to be very positive, okay? You know Frank here, he's gonna go after it, turn it on, save some money, don't make excuses. Absolutely. I'm just surprised that, I'm gonna expect that in the very near future, you're gonna be promoting solar panel on all the schools.
Yes, Senator, we have 3 laws in the books right now to have solar panels on our schools, and not a single one of them have been actually implemented.
And you would save
One of them
millions.
is mine. The first
Okay.
one was mine.
Okay, and another one, the clock is ticking fast. You have 81 million federal money you have to spend by December. How much of that impact is in the budget? None?
None.
What does it cover? What does
Because
81 million
these
cover?
These are federal dollars.
I know, but when I say how does it impact the budget, if you say you're going to fix the school or do something, is it anywhere in the budget you're saying you're going to fix something? Or are you telling me no? Because at the end of the day, as the months go by, this is all recorded, okay? All I'm going to say is, Afa, like 81 million, you didn't need it? You needed to spend it? Come December, let's hypothetically say you spend 81 million. October, November, December. Before we even get to October, you already have dropped 81 million to the DOE schools. Go for it,
Let me
Mary.
clarify, Senator. In the federal programs, they're based on the latest report that is dated April 23rd, there is $83 million available in federal funds. However, many of these federal funds are multi-year. So for example, the consolidated grant for fiscal year 25 is not, the last day to draw funds would be February of 28, and that's about $34 million. So there's an additional year because it's a 27-month grant. This is just what's available now. So there is 83 million available. The ones that are, and there's about 800,000 in another program. So if you take the 34 million plus the 135 million, so out of the 83, about 35 million still has an additional year before those funds expire. So they don't necessarily
Beyond December.
Beyond December.
So in other
that's
words,
correct.
the 81
It's
million
another
is not
year.
a true number. It's more like if you can't spend the 81, you still got a year to catch up if you don't spend it all.
Only for these two pieces because they're multi-year. They're 27-month grants as opposed to a one-year grant.
Understood.
But what happens is there's several grants that run at the same time that are like the consolidated grant. We're still spending 24. What we lost was 22, 23. We're spending 24, which covers a 27-month period. 25 is already awarded, which covers a 27-month period. And 26 has just been submitted. So there's a possibility that that would come right around July of 2026. So sometimes you will have 3 years running consecutively, but you use the first one
Yes.
so that you don't return the funding.
I hope so. And with that, my time has run out. I have many other questions, but I'm good. I can work with the
And
chairman
I'd
on
just like to
finance.
say that, and part of this, of course, is the salaries of the individuals in these programs. So it's not just all programs itself, but salaries.
Just be careful when we talk about salaries, and I understand my colleague asking about the national average. OOZ, only on Guam, we follow what we can afford, and we move from there. National average just doesn't work everywhere. Otherwise, Gov Guam would be broke. National average across the Gov Guam, the chairman here will be saying, Hafadzo, what are we going to do? I'll be like, I don't know. Cook and national average, because even our pay is not national average. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair.
This Monty, Senator San Augustine, and absolutely, and as I once again reiterated before you joined us, is that we have Office of Finance and Budget's always been very open for any of our colleagues. For him, it's a little easier because he's right next door. but you know, we are we're very open in terms of our colleagues with any additional questions, and of course, as we formulate the budget and then debate it on the floor, chapter by chapter, any questions can be answered during that time as well. My colleagues have asked a lot of good questions. I wanted to dive into one of the things we discussed during our pre-budget, and that was your agreement with basically your collective bargaining agreement. You're currently in compliance, right, with your discussions with GFT and other requirements in terms of what, or you at least have the agreement in place, correct?
Well, what we've been doing is that, and it's primarily filling of positions that the representative of the union have always asked us, and I meet with him every month as well, and he's also on the board. And his concern was actually filling these CBA positions. So based on what our current budget is and what positions we have, is that we've made it a priority that, you know, we would hire these individuals when they do apply and fill those positions. But there are still many others that have not, and that's the reason why we included it in this particular budget to meet the CBA agreement.
So this is why their fiscal year requests in terms of FTEs, fiscal year 2025, 2,585, fiscal year 2026 authorized 2,520. Agencies request for fiscal year 27, 2,962. That's a variance from the 25 authorized level of 377, and a variance from your request of 442 FTEs in terms of the increase. And this is the reason why I wanted to drill down on this. And that is, first of all, once again, to recap, what is your current tracking on budgeted vacancies within the Department of Education?
Well, we have, it changes every day, because like I said, we're
Yeah, just to
continuously-
your
So
average at this point.
When I gave the figures, instead of 116, these are the ones where they're not certified positions. And at the time when we submitted the budget, we have listed for teacher vacancies, various, it'd be 13 that we need to fill based on this request. But the latest that I've heard, because we always ask, is somewhere in the 50s of right now positions that we haven't filled from the beginning of the school year to this date.
So you're saying 50 plus is what you're
Yes.
telling me right now, okay? And that's at your authorized level of 2,520 for fiscal year 26. So around in the 50s range is what you're saying.
Yes, and that number always, it kind of vacillates, because if they retire, then the numbers go up. Then we hire, so then it drops. It's unpredictable.
Yeah, and Madam Superintendent, I want to accentuate that the success, because in the past we've been talking about teachers in the hundreds,
Yes.
you know, per classroom and the like. So I'm just saying that we've gotten there with the current number that we've been able to reconcile with regard to the entire funds available for appropriation. So I want to continue to highlight that.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
And I'd like
That's
to-
basically just about a teacher in every classroom, correct?
And
Just about.
and I like to give credit, of course, to, previous legislatures where they decided to grow our own educators by offering, of course, an educators program and stipends for them. I was actually one of those teachers that were hired off island after I graduated to come back to Guam to teach. And we've gotten to the point where we no longer hire anymore after Dodea left. We weren't hiring from off island unless they themselves personally just applied to us. So yes, our numbers were like 800, 500, 300, and now we're in the lower, about 100 something. And then here we are as low as even 50.
And that's a big deal, and that's why I want to work with you on where we're going to finally land, because I'd like to do this like we've done it. We've done it to where we've gotten here. We're really there, and I want to thank your team once again. The effort is there, and the board and everybody pulling together on these particular issues. Let's be honest with ourselves, with maintenance and repairs, the improvements that are moving now with regard to the accountability on the staffing side. I mean, this is where we build this in, that we're not. So I'm saying going forward, at least when we come to debate your budget, what I'm going to ask my colleagues to do is to sit down and see what is the reality of the hundreds of positions that are required, given the fact that the tracking now is there to get us to within really, really close range of where we've always wanted to be, where you're not getting bashed anymore for substitutes sitting in a classroom with kids having nothing to do, but how are they going to learn, right? You're getting there, and that's what's important. Maintenance is getting there. Everything is moving. So that's what I'm going to work with when I sit down and try to figure out how to work with this and work with the ceilings that are there present. Another thing is, I know this has gotten me some feedback before where, let the feds build their own schools and all this, but given the fact that honestly we're decommissioning, and given the fact that they have announced several times, and I asked the prior superintendent who said he had a Dodea hat at one point, you know what I mean? And that situation's going to continue to persist in terms of what they need. To the board and the Madam Superintendent, I think it will be worth a sit down with those folks. Maybe this is the first attempt at reintegrating, you know what I mean? And that is to say, when we're going to help you with your commercial opportunities, with your properties and whatever else, but you may make more money by saying, hey, do you want to repurpose this school? Because you keep talking about not wanting, the Fed's got two issues right now, and they've said this on the record to us. And one of the reasons why they're trying to get housing built outside. A typical family home on base, $1.52 million by contracts having to build to certain specs and whatever else. On the outside, comparable house that they could have their OHA for and whatever else it is, somewhere around $600,000, $700,000, definitely below 1.5 and 2 million. I'm sure schools will be the same thing. If they go in for schools, they'll probably look at a school like if we were to build Simon Sanchez for the feds, probably be 300 million. You know, but the fact is we have campuses that can possibly be repurposed. Would you at least commit to sitting down and having a discussion and an engagement? Because I think you could get quite a bit more value out of using a school for a school in certain instances. And that's where also maintenance of effort and federal opportunities that we sit down and say, hey, you know, we have this inventory of properties that are co-located not only just to the bases, but to many people who are outside. Contractors as well. Many contractors have these benefits. Contract teachers have these benefits. Others have these benefits with regard to what they get in terms of federal benefits, even though they work on Guam. So I love the fact that you've come this morning with solutions in hand, others than what your request is. I don't deny that your request is certainly something that is when able to be fully implemented, realistic. But with short of that, I want to continue to deal with what are our realities. And once again, I'm going to challenge my colleagues on the floor. The reason why I've continued to say status quo for certain entities is some of them fall out or even fall within some of the priority areas, but they're not using their money. And that's either DOA is going to have to step up and say, hey, listen, you know, we've reconciled our issues with regard to, you know, their ability to go to procurement. We've reconciled some of those issues. We've allowed them additional time to finish the fiscal year, and we're processing their, you know, their actions for their employment. If they're not, then they're a victim collectively of their executive direction and how they're able to do that. So we have to find another use for that money if it's there. That's where I want to find the reality of what we do. Because if we came in here, and I've asked OFB to do this, and they said, sir, get ready for the number. If we actually honestly calculated every request that came before us when we do this fiscal year, not even the 1.44 billion can touch that. That would be 100 million plus in excess is my estimate in terms of what those requests would be. So our realities are to see where do we once again work within what we know is available and repurpose that and make sure that we're concentrating on the priorities. But you have made that presentation today, so we're going to endeavor to do everything we can to get you there. And just in closing, I can tell you.
Before you close,
Sure.
I just want to let you know is that I've actually broached that question about DOE, rather, because I met with the newly appointed DOE superintendent of DOE schools throughout the world, basically wherever they have them. And he said that there's no discussion yet on that because it's so new, he'll find out. I also met with the person in charge of the schools here in the Pacific. He's currently stationed in Korea, and he came to Guam, and I met with him, and I met with the DOE superintendent here in Guam also. And they basically all said that that's not something yet that information has not gone down to them. But, you know, we are going to continue to keep the lines of communication, you know, open. So, like I said, Senators, that I know we're not a revenue generating institution, but we're looking at you know, other ways to kind of help defray some of the costs, like I said, you know, with leasing. So now we're going to generate revenues there.
I agree with you. And Madam Speaker, let me tell you right now, there's been active discussion because Senator Guåhan and I went up to Rev and Tax. They got to get out of that building.
Yes,
that
and
building
I was
does
approached
not
by
suit,
them, as a matter of fact.
Exactly. And so, yes, you're exactly right. That's why I said when you're talking in the 200,000 and 300,000, no.
Yes.
I know agencies that are paying 1.5, 1.6 million right now under budgets that we passed for some of those. And if they ran the same operation there, why wouldn't they pay that kind of money to the government of Guam?
Exactly.
And so that's not in the hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes, Madam Speaker. That is in the million, you know, million plus in terms of the cost per square foot that some of these agencies that are renting that are in substandard buildings. I mean, we put some of the pictures on our social media. Rev and Tax, people are under pala inside of the building.
Give them a campus.
You know, for some materials, not just when it rains, but for materials that were provided for insulation under the former use of that building that are not sustained, and they're breaking apart and they're falling down on, and the employees are protecting themselves. So they asked us, they said, you know, like, this is not unsolicited, you know, this is not something that I'm breaking the law on, that we'll have to go through procurement, I'm just giving ideas. But the fact is, they said, man, you know, LBJ looks, or what do you call that, Brody looks good, you know what I mean? And it's central, it's right there on Marine Corps Drive and everything else, and the handsome rent that they're paying right now, you know, is, and then once again, as we talk about charter schools again, when we go to that, if they're going to be paying the rent and that's appropriated here, you know, perhaps that goes over to you, because why would we pay rent to an outside vendor when we can recirculate that within Department of Education, because of the fact that that's appropriated from here, but it's a repurposing of that funding, saying that goes to DOE because they're the ones who is the landlord of that particular property. I'd rather pay you guys if you have the school that's ready to go, that we can move forward. So I think all of these ideas, we're going to give you a baseline that you can work with, but we're also going to tell you we're going to continue throughout the fiscal year to help you moving forward to get to where you need to be. But congratulations once again for the work that you've done. With that, I want to thank our chair once again. He's very open-minded. He bothers me a lot, which is good. It's the right thing to do. And he gives me those proposals, but you know, from the beginning when we sat down, and I want to say this, and it's getting so much better even now. From the beginning when we sat down, every time there's this bubble up of, we need this, every time we call you and we say, okay, let's sit down and talk about it, we find avenues that get us there. We did that when it came to your federal funds that we're going to make sure are allocated and giving you the flexibility on right now. Before it was like, no, we need 30 million to do this. And even your finance chair, thank you, Mary, said, she didn't say no. She said, I will help you, legislature, look at a few things. And she did. And so she gave us some ideas. We did it in concert. She didn't, you know, usurp the authority of the education and tell the, you know, the people that do the work that they were wrong. She said, those ideas are appropriate. And that's what happened. And so before you know it, we started to see the reactivation of the accounts going forward, and not having to have the total seed money, but allowing DOE to use 3, 4, 5 million, and it opened the spigot again of that federal reimbursement coming. So we're always here to help. That's what we want to do. But thank you for your presentation. We'll work on it, and then we'll have a final bill come out, argued on the floor, and find as many sources as we can to help you. So. Madam Chair, anything else you want to say before we close? Press your button, please.
Senators, thank you very much for showing so much support for the Guam Department of Education. I think we're in a position now, all of us, where we see that we are working well together, and we all want the same thing. We want the best for the children of Guam. And sometimes it's a little tough, but we work out the issues and we get to the bottom line of what needs to be done to fix the problem. I'm very impressed with our superintendent, and we're working very closely, the board, with our superintendent. There's no communication issues, 100% disclosure of what she's doing. She tells us what she's doing. She asks for our input, we give her our input. And her management team, they are tremendous people. They're fully dedicated to our school system. And I think we're in the right direction. And thank you for your support, Senator Borja, Senator Duenas, Senator San Augustine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And, you know, I'm seeing the work, and that's what matters. And so we're both doing what we got to do. And with that, have a great morning, and appreciate it. And so with that, the Department of Education fiscal year 2027 budget has been heard in the public hearing in the Guam Legislature, and we'll continue to contemplate the budget going forward in the coming weeks and months. Suzus Masi, Committee on Finance and Government Operations is hereby adjourned.